2 of the 32 NFL teams still have a shot to make the postseason, but hey, that's some 5 weeks away. Fantasy playoffs for many beginning next week. We're here to help. Hope you're heading to the playoffs. Hey, how are you? Jason Horwitz with you on the Chase Fantasy Football Series, exclusively here on CBS Sportsline. I'll be joined by senior fantasy writer Dave Richard from Miami to help you out on who to start and who to sit in Week 13. And quick reminder, Cincinnati and Baltimore playing Thursday night. Don't forget to adjust your rosters before then. All right, let's get to Dave Richard via satellite from Miami. And Dave, let's jump right into it and get to your stardom quarterbacks and your sit-em quarterbacks. Give them to me.
All right, Jason. Jamie Eisenberg and I sat down, and here's what we got. We like Matt Leinart at the St. Louis Rams, Chad Pennington at Green Bay. Leinart's a great start this week. The Cardinals have passed for 250 or more yards in their last 4 against St. Louis. Quarterbacks we'd avoid: Eli Manning versus Dallas, John Kitna at New England, and Trent Green against Cleveland. You know, Trent Green has 263 yards, 1 interception, and 0 touchdowns since coming back. So his stats really haven't been what we've thought they'd be.
All right, Dave, let's talk about Matt Leinart because he hasn't had good back-to-back fantasy games since his first 2 starts that he made this season. Obviously, St. Louis defense isn't that good, but last week with Alex Smith and Frank Gorentown, the secondary was a little bit better. What does Leinart have to do to copy what he did in Minnesota, or at least come close to that? Because anything near 400 yards again will be a great start.
Okay, here's what he has to do, Jason. He has to throw the ball to Anquan Boldin and Larry Fitzgerald. That's it. That's all he's got to do. Bolden's got over 100 yards in each of his last 3 against the Rams. Larry Fitzgerald had a bananas game last week against Minnesota. Should do the same here. Traditionally, this is a high-scoring game. It wasn't that way earlier this year, but look for this to be in the high-scoring realm, probably around 50 to 60 points.
Yeah, well, especially since typically this season neither of these two teams can play defense. All right, Dave, let's get to your stardom running backs. Give them to me.
All right, Rudy Johnson versus Baltimore. A lot of people are shy about this one. He has 289 rush yards and 4 touchdowns in his last 3 against the Ravens. Lawrence Maroney versus Detroit is also up there, and DeAngelo Williams at Philadelphia. Sit running backs: Thomas Jones versus Minnesota, Julius Jones at Giants, a little brother action there, and Fred Taylor at Miami. Miami hasn't allowed a 100-yard rusher in the last 4 games, and you know who's getting the touchdowns in Jacksonville. That's Maurice Jones-Drew.
Yeah, one thing I want to hit on there, Dave, on your start running backs, you had DeAngelo Williams, another rookie last week against playing for Indianapolis. Joseph Addai had 171 yards on the ground. Is that what Carolina's going to try to do? Because normally they're not a running football team.
Well, I would disagree with you there. Normally they are a running football team, and that's why Steve Smith hasn't been getting into his groove, is because the running game has been so choppy. Look, DeAngelo Williams had that monster game 2 weeks ago. Steve Smith did well. Last week, DeAngelo Williams was held in check. Steve Smith didn't do so well. This week, I think it's going to happen for the Panthers. DeAngelo Williams matches up very well against Philadelphia's, let's call them slow linebackers. Let's just leave it at that. Jeremiah Trotter's there, but after him, I don't really like anybody in that linebacking core, and that's what teams have been attacking with Philadelphia. It's why teams have been able to run so hard. And the Eagles, once you break past that first line of defense, you're off to the races.
Yeah, and he's also got a lot more speed than Deshaun Foster, assuming Foster plays. That's still up in the air. All right, let's get to your stardom wide receivers, Dave. And one's on here, maybe a little bit of a surprise as, you know, why he's not a given, but Marvin Harrison hasn't been tremendous all season.
Right, and Marvin Harrison makes the list for the first time probably ever in the history of the show, because we don't like to give you the obvious guys, because he was grumpy after the game last week. 1 catch for 8 yards. That's definitely not Marvin Harrison-like. And Joe Horn's on this list too versus San Francisco. Horn's been real hot in 3 of his last 4 games, and overall in those last 4 games, 390 yards, 4 touchdowns. The Niners 27th in receiving defense. Guys, I would sit at wide receiver: Plaxico Burress versus Dallas. If I don't like Eli Manning, there's no way I'm going to like Plaxico Burress. Chris Chambers versus Jacksonville. Chambers has been terrible all year. Darrell Jackson at Denver. I got a feeling you're going to ask me about that one. I think you've got a rooting interest in Darrell Jackson this week, Jason, but he's definitely one guy that we would tell you to sit.
Well, Darrell Jackson, I mean, he does have a touchdown in 6 of his last 7 games. You made an interesting point before we started the show about Darrell Jackson, that Champ Bailey's going to be all over him. And, you know, when Indianapolis came to Denver, Champ Bailey was all over Marvin Harrison. They threw 3 touchdowns to Reggie Wayne. Is that what you're expecting? They're going to avoid Darrell Jackson and just go to one of their other 2 or 3 receivers?
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of going with here is that Seattle's got Sean Alexander back. They're going to use him. That's going to take up about half their plays, assuming they don't fall too far behind. I think we can assume that that's not going to happen with Cutler under center, and who knows which Bell running the ball for Denver. So if Sean Alexander's involved a lot in the game plan, that's going to take away a lot of passes that might go Darrell Jackson's way. And Matt Hasselbeck is still getting to know and getting to enjoy Deion Branch, and Branch is going to have a good matchup against Darren Williams. That's going to be a very interesting matchup. They're both short, very quick players. I almost said receivers, but Williams isn't a receiver. And the other point I'd make about this is that Denver, one wide receiver has scored against them in their last 4 games, and another wide receiver had 100 yards against them in the last 4 games, and that's it. So they've been very stingy against the pass. You have to think twice if you're going to use Darrell Jackson this week.
All right, Dave, there you have it. The best starts and the best sits coming from Dave Richard down there in Florida. But, folks, there's plenty more for all the rest of the starts and sits. Be sure to read his articles as well as Jamie Eisenberg leading up to Sunday. Dave, we'll talk to you real soon, and good luck as we head towards the playoffs.
Good luck, and let me be the first to congratulate you, Jason, on making the playoffs in one of the experts leagues on CBS Sportsline. Nice job up there in New York. We won't say that you got help along the way, though.
Yeah, you did give me a trade there, Dave. I appreciate that. Thanks a lot, Dave. We'll talk to you soon. Folks, that'll do it for the Chase Fantasy Football Series heading into Week 13. Good luck if your playoffs start next week. We hope you make it, and hope Dave and Jamie have helped you out along the way. Until next week, I'm Jason Horowitz. Take care.